A fantastic guest today. In fact, he's been working on this book for a bunch of years. It is finally here. It's launch day officially. David Allred, welcome to the live stream.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh man, listen, when we started talking about this book at first, I knew it was going to be a different type of book because you see a lot of books out there, and they're just a rehash of kind of like the latest pop psychology and guru stuff. Your book is totally different. In fact, I got to read the subtitle here. So, stop looking for the secret and be your own guru. Man, what is up with that?
Well, I was yes, it was. I was looking back through my notes, and I first started this March of 2019,
Wow.
um, and the premise of it's all the same is whatever there is no secret because all the secrets is about you. So it's whether you're going to a Tony Robbins Date with Destiny seminar, you're going to do a 7-day silent meditation retreat, or you follow Buddhism or Christianity or whatever it is that you're doing, you are, it's all the same. It's about you. You're the one that's going to be in control of it. Jim Rohn, who was a Tony Robbins
Oh
mentor,
yeah,
has a line. He said, if you want things to change, you have to change.
that's right.
And then he goes on and has many hours of dialogue about it. And it's, that's the whole shebang. I mean, he's saying that the economy is not going to change, politics is going to change, the weather's not going to change, your family's not going to change. So you have to, from a Stoic standpoint, which I'm a big fan of Stoicism. I
Oh
was a
yeah.
Stoic before I knew what I was a fan of it before I knew what it was, because I'd always said it's never the thing. It's almost never the thing. It's how you react to the thing that makes all the difference. We've all had,
Ah,
and not to minimize anybody's trauma or, woe and things that have befallen them, but at some point, how you react to that and what story you make of that and what you want to do with that is what makes, this will make or break the next 20, 30, 60 years of your life. So that was kind of, I wanted it to be, it's not all the same it's all the same. It's all the same. It's like, it's the modality is irrelevant, or as a friend of mine says, it has agnostic to the solution. It's all the same because it's about you. And so whichever modality, whichever, program, whichever meditation, whichever, cathartic experience or, personal development moment you want to go through, it's all going to come from you. And the person you talk to the most every day is yourself.
oh, that's good.
So to the extent that you can, tell yourself the right things and the right affirmations and the right messaging to, like some people call it neurolinguistic programming. Some just call it, mantras or what have you. So I wanted to get the message out. It's a simple, it's not, things aren't as hard as the people make it out to be sometimes,
Totally.
and I wanted to make a concise consent, message. People I've shared the book said, "Oh my gosh, you can start a program, you can start a course." I said, "That's the point. There doesn't need to be another course. There doesn't need to be another program, from my standpoint, because I think whatever program you find is the point.
Yeah.
I don't want to come up with a new program for you. I want you to realize whatever program, system, belief, faith, what have you, it's all the same because it's going to come from you." So that's the genesis of it, and that's the message. I've spent the last 5 years trying to hone and create. So uh,
That
no,
that
it's been exciting.
that is intense. So I like this statement here. This could be
Hmm.
the last self-help book you ever read.
Right,
So
right.
just to like summarize then, and by the way, I was showing this all over Instagram live here. We got to get them excited here. But
Hmm.
my point is that you're basically saying the myth out there is you go to Tony Robbins, you go to all these other things, and supposedly the thing is going to change you. But you're saying, no, no, no. You're the same variable in every single equation. And so you can have all the external stimuli you want. But if you don't look in the mirror and make the changes, you're not going to change.
And it's not just, I mean, and I've gotten a great deal of value from the different,
Sure, sure.
classes and programming and meditations and hypnosis and all the things that I've gone through. And yes, you do. I think you do need it is helpful for a lot of people to go and get, a therapist, go to get some sort of, church or gathering or whatever, floats your boat. But realizing you have to then take that. When I remember discovering podcasts in 2015. And I think James Altucher was the first podcast I ever listened to, and then got into Tim Ferriss, and now then I had a ton of them. And I realized at some point the podcast had a lot of good information about how to do this, how to do that. And then I realized I was just listening to podcasts, but not doing anything. Knowledge isn't
Ah,
power. Knowledge isn't power. Action on that knowledge is the power.
that is
So
hot. That is hot.
My uncle, for whom I'm named, his philosophy is if you know enough to walk across the room to get a self-help or a personal development book off the shelf, you don't even need to read it. If you know enough to know to go get it, then you kind of have that knowledge in what needs to happen. So maybe you could crack a book, maybe one more book called "It's All the Same" to help you get through
Ah,
that. But yes, that's really kind of
no, I like that. I like that. So here's a couple thoughts. I mean,
okay.
obviously, you have a ton of success. I mean, let's just be real. Like you got a ton of success. Dry, even though I'm not a drinker, that's all right. Dry farm wines is like the thing to go. I mean, you got celebrities, you are a guy who knows success. That's kind of why I like this book, because you're not saying
Mhm.
like, "Hey man, I'm a loser. I haven't done anything, and I'm going to tell you advice." Some people would say you've reached the top in your industry. What do you
Well,
think?
my partner Todd and I really kind of started a revolution in natural, sugar-free, organic wine, and really changed the way people
Oh,
live
wow.
and can have wine as a part of, a healthy, lifestyle, and not have the brain fog and the stuff that comes with all the chemicals and the additives and stuff. But, I started out my career out of college in real estate, and then I decided I was going to start a staffing company, and then which was interesting, and then became a government contractor. Then I got into the financial and tax planning services because I found that interesting. And then the wine thing almost kind of happened as like a little project that just blew up. I mean, we launched in October 2015, and it's been just a rocket ship ride. And I've got other projects that I'm working on now, and it's this somebody called me a serial co-founder because a serial entrepreneur seems to be the thing. But I'm very good at taking an idea and helping it get off the launching pad, and then once it gets up to flying altitude, then you bring in a top-notch operator to run it, and then my brain wants to go solve the next problem or wants to get kind of into that creative process of
Yeah.
starting something. So I had a friend years ago in Atlanta where I went to school, and he had been through several businesses, and the one he was in was just gangbusters. And I was 22 years old or something. I was like, hey, how was the secret to your success? How did you know this was the business that was going to you know make it to the races? And he said, it's the one that took. And so I've always
Mm,
remembered that, because I think in business, on this topic, you have an idea, you have a thought, there's a problem that you want to solve. You think that other people might have that same problem, that you can make a thing out of it. But at the end of the day, the marketplace is going to decide.
mm.
So, I mean, we could have said, this is the best wine, artisanal, elegant, beautiful, sugar-free, organic, and people go, yeah, wine's wine, and it didn't matter. But the marketplace was craving this, and they've
Interesting.
responded. So, and other things, again, so it's, I'm very proud of that, but I'm, proud of all the things that I've done, and if in a lot of respects, all roads lead us to where we are today. So
Yeah.
we have, there's certain situations that pop up, and people will say, "Oh my gosh, I regret this," or I hate this happened." I'm like, "Well, all roads led you to here."
Wow.
I had you know, every time I was at a stoplight when I was in high school and had a stick shift car, which I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
anybody knows how to drive a stick shift anymore.
I got that.
And
Yeah.
I was 17 years old, and the light turns green, you drop the clutch, you're off to the races because you're just young and free and carefree. And I popped the clutch, which I never did, so I was very good at driving the stick shift, which caused the car to stall out. And as I'm pushing the clutch back in to crank the car, a dump truck ran the red light at
Ooh,
35 miles an hour.
yeah.
So if I hadn't dropped the clutch, if I hadn't, so whenever, and I was shaking trying to start the car
Wow.
after that, because I realized I would have been a goner, or at least,
Yeah.
beat,
Oh, yeah.
beat the heck and back. So when you catch the red light, okay, I don't yell at the red light, because you don't know if that red light catching you kept you from doing something later. So it kind of goes back to my
That's
stoic philosophy of it's not the thing, it's how you react to the thing, and the things that you can control and things you can't control. So I think that kind of also goes into the same mantra of it being all the same. In a set of circumstances, I ended up connecting up with a musician, and we co-wrote a song for the book, which I don't think I've ever
what?
told. I don't even told you about this breaking news. It
Where
hasn't
is
been
this?
released yet. It hasn't been released yet. It's coming out this fall, and the song's called Michelangelo, and the and it's a really cool. I'm really proud of it. I've never been a songwriter, and he did a lot of the heavy lifting, but we certainly did it together. And the reason I like, and there's an anecdote in the book about Michelangelo and the statue of David.
Mm.
And one of the things I've just always loved about when Michelangelo was asked, he was like the third or fourth person to tackle that piece of marble to get the statue going. And people would compliment Michelangelo on his creation. And he says, I didn't create it, I revealed it.
Mm.
David was already in that piece of granite, or whatever kind of stone it is. And he just took the excess and the unnecessary parts away to reveal it.
Oh, that's good.
So, I like that type of, it's, you have, Dorothy always had, was always going to go home to the Kansas. The Tin Man always had a heart. The Lion always had courage. They just didn't know it. They had to have somebody tell them they already had it, but they already possessed those things to begin with on that journey. So that's kind of,
That's
again, the
interesting.
philosophy that
Mm.
I want to try to help people understand through this book, and through life, and through, through entrepreneurship. And the deal that didn't go through, that you think is going to kill you, is now actually freed you up to get the deal that actually is 10 times better. And if you listen to like actors talk about the role they didn't get, the sitcom that got canceled, well, thank God it got canceled, because they wouldn't have gotten the big movie that was the hugest hit of their lives. So that's just, you kind of have to take things in stride, is also a philosophy that I like to share.
That's good. I heard a quote the other day. It was something like, "You would be so amazed by all the money I made on the deals I didn't do."
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Just talking about how you're right. Like, all the closed doors that we think are gonna ruin us. I got a
Right.
phrase, and I'm a guy of faith, but I got a phrase that says, "People's rejection is God's protection."
Mm-hmm.
And that's not my own, but kind of the same thing though, what you're saying, like, the thing that you hate or curse, the clutch going out at the
Mm-hmm.
stop, the book not taking 5 years, it actually is part of the whole process.
No, that's, I was telling your producer. I said, because she says she's working on hers, and I said, you can't rush these things,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, and I shared with you this during the process. The hardest part of this was me saying I have a story to tell that I think is worth telling. It was like, who
Mm,
am I to tell this? And that was, an introspection on my level of like, okay, people say they teach what they need to learn, and so that was kind of, that you're at the source of it,
yeah,
was that you is kind of what that was there. And so I had to kind of get over. I wouldn't really call it imposter syndrome. It was just like, uh, is this really something anybody wants to read? And so I basically went at this book of like, I want to read this for me. Would I
mm,
love to sell 1 million copies and be Oprah's next best thing? Of course. But if the only person that bought it was, me, or the process of reading it, I think it was Zig Ziglar or somebody said, don't strive to be, wealthy millionaire because of the money, but strive to do it because the skills that you will accumulate along the way.
that's good.
Um, as far as, strive and drive and things like that. So that was really, that was the hardest part for me, was just, getting over the fact that, I had something that I think somebody else might want to hear.
Yeah.
And luckily, the feedback thus far has been great. And as I've told, I have so many people who's like, I didn't even know you were writing a book. And I said, yeah, I kind of like to keep things close to the vest until it's ready. So, so as it was getting close, and now it came out a little bit early on Amazon before we did this today. So I didn't even know it was there, and somebody saw it and sent it to me. I had to sit down in the chair. Honestly, I was like, I can't believe that
Really?
this is out here. So it's been humbling. It's been supremely gratifying.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll get somebody will review it and say it's this, that, and the other, but I'll check their book out. How about when they say that?
Well,
So
I
I
love
can't worry about that.
that's right. I love what Nicole says. We love you, David. Val and I are listening in. So, I mean, it's clear you are making an impact. Everybody from Halle Berry with dry wines and Mark Sisson, like I mean, that's cool, man, that you're reaching the top, and then you're reaching the person you may never know that
Right.
picks up your book. So you kind of have both ends. What do you think about people that, like this, who are all reaching out about the wine?
Um,
What do you think? It's got to be
I
pretty
mean,
surreal.
well, like I said, we really hit a niche. Honestly kind of created the category of, the better for you, the healthier category. Because a lot of people think of wine as, as Lucy and Ethel out back stomping the grapes and don't realize how, industrial it can be. And so we're going to the artisan, family farmers and the people that have been doing this for generations, and who really, really cared. If when we go to visit the winemakers, the passion is just so obvious and so awesome. So, the I've heard Scott Galloway, Prof G, as he goes by on I think Twitter. He
Mm,
said, people say follow your passion. He says to follow something that you're good at, and then the passion will come. And so, because if your passion is maybe crocheting, doilies, that may not be the most lucrative job, but do what you want to do. But to the winemakers that we see, it's they love what they do. They're
mm.
good, and they're good at it, and they're passionate about it. So, but it's exactly the same with with the book, and the people that come I've made friends, in the health and wellness industry. I met Mike Koenig through JJ, and then through him I met you, and it's just again, every road has led to where we are today. So
Yeah.
I love it. I just love the fact that there's people that want to do better. I mean, there's people who are seeking, striving.
Yeah.
There's that balance. You don't want to be you don't want to be content, but you don't want to be complacent.
Yeah.
And so, because then you rest on your laurels, and then you kind of plateau and stuff. But then if you never take a moment to take a victory lap and say, hey,
That's true.
check out this view, then you're just going to be on a grind. A friend of mine worked for big famous designer, and he said after the show would end, he's a billionaire, and the big fashion show would end, everybody's going crazy, and he's like, all right, back to work. Everything's would not take 1 minute to like, hey, enjoy the success. So
Wow.
be content but not satisfied, I think, is what some people have said.
Yeah.
And so and it's like the you like the tagline, stop looking for the secret and be your own guru. Someone actually referenced that, gave me that idea, because Tony Robbins had the documentary I'm Not Your Guru.
Yeah.
And that was my point, was you can be your own and use the tools. There was a Mark Manson, I think, podcast talking about who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a what.
Oh yeah.
And so he was a guest on a podcast, and he was talking about how Eckhart Tolle, who I'm a big fan of Eckhart Tolle, and being present, the power of now.
Sure.
He said, but at some point you have to really you can't be. I mean, yes, there is only this moment, but you do have to think about tomorrow and packing a bag and studying for the test. And so take that and then add this.
Oh, that's good.
Dan Abrams, who wrote the 10% Happier book, he said the same thing. He's like, okay, it's great, but you need actionable items. And when he was writing his book, 10% Happier, the publishers didn't like the name. They said, we want to be 1,000% happier. He goes, if you can just make it just 10% more, you're doing better than 98% of the people. So
Oh, he trusts his gut. I like that.
I don't play golf, but 1 millimeter left or right is what makes the ball go 100 yards this direction or that direction. So little tweaks. I had a colleague say it's like tabbing the sail. Like when you're a sailboat, you want to try to keep as tight to the line. So
Mm.
you know,
No,
try to
but
make complex things simple.
here's what I'm taking away from this. You are obviously a student because you just referenced a lot of people. So you're not saying don't learn, don't grow, don't pursue podcasts, books, but you're saying, but keep in mind, you can do all that and not deal with you, and you're going to be the same.
You've got to take action on that. Right. Exactly. It's not, like I said earlier, it's not knowledge is power, but action on that knowledge is where the growth comes from. And so the parallel to dry farm wines is, people seeking out a better way to live. They're wanting to have organic produce in their life. They're eating wild caught fish, not farmed fish. They're, getting, chemicals out of their house. I mean, I only drink water out of glass bottles now because it's, I try to keep plastic away. So it's different things like that. And so people seeking better health outcomes and people seeing better, mental health outcomes or better life outcomes, I think is the same things. If you're not, if you're not questioning, seeking, you can question again. You can question and question and question and be, a student of philosophy. But then what are you going to do with that? So that's just kind of, to me, it's that nexus point. I was on a ski trip out to Colorado one time, and I was wrestling with a question for myself of like, where do I want to set my thermostat? Am I going to run hot, run cold? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I was with some friends, some I knew and some I'd met through this group. And one of them was a just hot charging attorney, and he was yelling on the phone at everybody, whether it was his housekeeper or his aunt or the district attorney. He was fighting for a client. He was at number 11 the whole time. And I was like, maybe calm down. And it kind of hit me on that trip. It's turn it up, turn it down, knowing when, again, these nexus points of when to be satisfied, when to be content, when to be unsatisfied, when to be uncontent, to then go do something better. So, or
That's
something
good.
different,
That's
or something
good.
to kind of get you there. So it's, it's a tool. It's, it's just a matter of, that IQ, and then some people call it EQ, emotional quotient of just, I like to quote I call him the poet laureate, Kenny Rogers. And he said it best: know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. And so that's just really, I think it can be, like I said, it doesn't have to be so hard. Just keep it simple, boil it down to the things, get the tools, study, and then again, it's up to you to figure out how you want to implement those things.
That's good.
All right. Give me a hand. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You got something from the crowd here. You got
okay.
So Jeffrey from the crowd is, you may know Jeffrey. I don't know Jeffrey, but he says, did you learn anything new about yourself from writing your book?
That I could do it. That I was, that this was something. It was something I'd never done before. Never thought I even wanted to, honestly, didn't think I wanted to do it. And then I was, had this, it hit me in March, like I said, started in March of 2019. I was at an event and I was like, oh, I think I can do this. I think I want to do this. Well, I said, basically, I want to do this. Can I do this? And so, confidence you build confidence by achieving tasks and completing tasks that you didn't think you could probably do.
Sure.
And so it's been a confidence builder, for sure. I was pretty good on the self-confidence level, but entrepreneurs and people like myself, a lot of times are like, I've never started a wine company before, but why not? Let's do that.
That's right.
I always told people we built the plane while we were flying it. So that's kind of what I learned from that, is that I could do something. And then of course, like again, back to Tony Robbins, he has the event where you walk on hot coals.
Oh yeah, sure.
And the whole purpose of that is not to walk on hot coals, but if you told somebody, hey, you're gonna walk across hot coals and not set your feet on fire, people would say, well, that's impossible. And then he gets them to do it, and it's like, okay, if that was impossible, that you now realize isn't, what else do you think is that you thought was impossible that you could do. So
Oh, that's good. That's
that's
good.
probably that's what I learned. Excellent question.
Well, all right, here's one more, and we got about 3 minutes left, but
Okay.
Michaela is actually a French student, from America, but she goes and studies over there. I am going to France this summer again to cycle. You are going to France like big time. I think you got a house there. Why
You
France?
do.
Why France? And how does it relate to the book?
Well, it kind of relates to it. Honestly, it can relate. I never thought about it relating to the book. It's one of those things I just never thought I could accomplish, and
Mm,
it's like a thing that's out there. It's like, and I grew up in the South in North Carolina, and my mother's was a big fan of impressionist paintings and that kind of lifestyle, and she loved French cooking, and she was an excellent cook, and made things from scratch, and so that that kind of ethic was
sure.
in me, and so it just kind of happened, and the circumstances aligned themselves, and next thing you know, we have a farmhouse in outside Saint-Remy de Provence where Van Gogh painted Starry Nights and a whole bunch of other awesome paintings.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there on the front patio with a cup of coffee, going, I'm a boy from Raleigh, North Carolina, sitting on a farmhouse in France, and it was just like I didn't know that I could do that. And then
Mm,
I did. And it's just you gotta have to it's kind of hard to process sometimes, honestly. And other people look at it, externally and go, oh wow, that must be so cool. And you had this whole master plan. Like it wasn't really a master plan, just again, circumstances, presented itself to do that. And it's been great. And I have my long-term visa status now. So I'll be there starting 4 days heading over there for the summer. So
wow.
it's a great lifestyle. It's people
It
really
is.
do,
It's cool. It's
they have
cool.
lunch, they have dinner, they have, size, proper portions. Um, Everything's fresh. I mean, it's a great lifestyle. It's a great, way of living, live to work, work to live. There's issues there, like there's issues everywhere,
Sure.
but no, it's great. And I would not have thought, honestly, I'm glad you asked that question, Kary, because I would never have linked these two items together before that. So
That's cool.
I really appreciate you connecting those dots for me.
Well, listen, you got some big fans here. In fact, they're asking me to say the book website. We've shown it, but they want to say it. So it's allthesame.com. It's
It's all the same
allthesame.com.
document. Hmm.
And then you have dryfarmwines.com in case anybody's just listening via audio.
Yep.
Dryfarmwines.com. And then the book is everywhere. I mean, we're talking Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Waterstones, Chapters Indigo, like all over the world. And David,
And
this is
it's at the Library of Congress. I was just there
yeah,
with it
yeah. Oh my
in
gosh, so
DC.
smart. I saw the picture.
That was an amazing opportunity to see it there. And I think their copy might be further in the warehouse than right there at the front, but it's there, and it was a great opportunity. It's a beautiful building. If you ever get to DC, it's probably the most gorgeous building in Washington DC. So I highly recommend it, and it's just a really cool venue. It was an honor to be there.
You crushed it. In fact, I got the picture, man. I'm that fast. Here we
Oh
go.
my gosh.
It's coming. It's coming. And then we'll end with this here. But you got the David Allred picture, the flag, the whole thing. That's hot, man. I got some books there, but I've never been there. And I'm gonna go.
That's
You're
that's
gonna
the
start.
library. That's the librarian's ceremonial desk. So
Oh,
I was very fortunate to get a behind the scenes
yeah.
access to there. So, but
That's
it's
so cool. That's
no,
so cool.
that was an awesome experience.
Well, listen, man, our whole team's proud of you, and this is just the beginning. We know you're touching lives, but thanks, David, for trusting us with your book, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
All right, have a great day, everybody. Get the book; it's all the same, and you'll see how this book is really simple but revolutionary. Take care.